Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a hot minute, but I wanted to come at you all with a quick review, this time talking about a movie that doesn't come out for a few weeks, so this is a pretty early review. Got to check out Lucky Strike at AMC Screen Unseen just a few hours ago, and I'm going to talk about it. So, if you're new around here and you don't know, I watch every single movie that comes out all the time, and I log them on my letterbox, and you can watch as I rank all of the 2026 new releases on that letterbox, with the eventual goal of making a big long video where I rank everything. So, Lucky Strike, however, is the newest addition to that list. Saw it earlier today at a secret screening at AMC, and this is an okay war film. This is a war movie. The plot is just basically that this platoon goes into, during World War II, I should say, this platoon goes in to set up a trap where they're going to blow up some C4 to collapse the trees are on top of the road so that this German military group cannot get through to their checkpoint. That's the setup. And all of the soldiers go to the checkpoint and they set up their trap. And right as they're setting up their trap, they get under heavy fire and they have to get split up. And after they get split up, they get picked off one by one until eventually there's only one soldier left. And the lone wolf survivor has to make it to a rally point to be able to get medevaced. And you follow the point of view of the survivor throughout the entire movie, and it's kind of his story is the backbone. His, strive to get back home to his wife and his kids, that's the backbone. And what I have to say about Lucky Strike is that this is a painfully generic World War II film with a weirdly horror-themed coat of paint. You're getting a lot of very generic World War II tropes. Just the Nazis being the super bad guys and the Americans being the tough as nails, the best in the world. And, it's all the World War II stereotypes. And it's all, the color grading is all gray and everything is gloomy. It's a basic war film. It's not like Pressure from a few weeks ago where you're getting more of like a backstory with a lot of very interesting character developments and stuff like that. This is a full-blown war action movie. And one thing with this film that does isolate it a little bit from being painfully generic, and kind of one of the weirdest things about the movie, is that it's almost kind of shot like a horror film. There's a lot of Evil Dead inspiration I picked up on, not like modern Evil Dead, but like old school Evil Dead shot compositions and like angles and stuff like that I picked up on. And it's just, there's jump scares in here. This is trying to be a horror movie. And I thought that was a pretty cool angle, all things considered, to take it. I thought that was something that did isolate it a little bit from being like overly painfully generic. So it does have that going for it. There are some things I like about it. Other things I did enjoy is I thought the first act setup was pretty entertaining, and the second act was also very entertaining. You get a lot of pretty good action sequences that are very well choreographed. They look very good practically. You have one like scene with like a flamethrower that's pretty cool. There's a few sequences that do have very good practical effects and just look very good, especially considering how low the budget is and how unknown this film is. It's kind of in the background. So, there's all that kind of stuff. And I do enjoy that. The practical work is good. But unfortunately, there is also a lot of CGI in this movie, and the CGI is like AMC level CGI, like The Walking Dead Season 8 deer level of CGI. I'll put that on the screen. So you're getting pretty bad CGI when there is CGI. It's very few and far between, but when it's on the screen, it is Walking Dead Season 8 deer CGI. It is bad CGI. But back to, the first act and the second act being pretty compelling. There is some good stuff. You do have some unique situations, like the American soldier ends up in this family's house, and you get to see what goes on in the family's house and how it reacts to the war around them. You get good payoffs at the end to a lot of the core things, but there are a few things that don't really work with this movie. Starting off is that technically this movie is like the soldier is telling the story of how he survived, so you're already kind of getting a spoiler alert that he can't die at the end. Like literally the first thing in the movie is like the aftermath, so it's a little unfortunate that you can't, you're not on the edge of your seat thinking he's going to die the whole movie, because it basically just tells you he's not going to, which is really unfortunate. But another problem with this movie is the characters. I think the characters are painfully generic. Like, obviously, the platoon that gets killed off, like, they get killed off within the first 15 minutes of the movie. So they're not really characters. They're just caricatures of soldiers. But the main character is just a painfully generic, full red, white, and blue American who wants to go back to his family at the end of the war. And it's not like something that, Nolan would make with Dunkirk or any of those kinds of things. This is a, America good movie. There's never any instance of like them trying to sympathize, like say that the Nazi soldier has like a family too, which I'm not sympathizing with Nazism. Nazism is bad, but I'm saying like a Nazi soldier also has a wife and a child. Like there's never any moments like that. They don't do anything like that. So there is one character that they try and do something kind of unique with, but it came across as very corny and actually ruined the third act for me, which I'll get to in a second. But for the most part, I think that is the big critique I would give, is that there's not really any bigger ideas other than America good and soldier get home. Now, going to that third act problem, there is a character that appears in the third act that they do something relatively unique with, and if it was played off in a different way, I think it could have been kind of cool, but it came across very corny with the way it was resolved and the dialogue written around it. And the dialogue is my biggest point of contention with this movie, because for the beginning of the movie, I was very worried the dialogue was going to be bad because it started off kind of just generic. It didn't have any flavor to it. There was no zest. And once you get to the actual platoon, once you get introduced to all the characters, the banter between them is pretty spot on. It feels very fluid. It feels very good. There's some actual zest and sauce to it. And then as you go deeper into the movie and you're just left with your main character, you're not getting as much dialogue, which is fine because the action sequences make up for it. But then every time they do introduce a new character that does speak English, and I'll talk about that in a second, the characters don't speak fluidly. They speak like they may have been written with artificial tools. They're not very well written, dialogue-wise. But it's not every time. There are some times where the dialogue locks in and there's actually a pretty clever line, and there's other times where it's not. So it alternates. As for the speaking English thing, there's a really cool detail in this movie where only the main character, since we're in the main character's point of view and he only speaks English, there's no subtitles. So whenever he encounters the family in the house, because they're French, he can't speak their language, so he doesn't know what they're saying, so he has to work with what he has, making hand gestures and stuff. And when the Nazis are invading and when we're in fight sequences against the Nazis, there is no subtitles to hear what they're saying. You just have to infer through their body language and through what's going on in the sequence. And I think that's cool. I enjoy that. I think that is a good addition to the film. It works pretty much every time they do it. There's never a time where I thought it was annoying, that I couldn't tell what they were saying, or repetitive or anything like that. Back to some third act problems. Like I said, the fact that you kind of already know how he can't die is really stupid. The ending is particularly not that interesting. There's no real big tie-in. And the big thing with this movie is that the title of the film, the name Lucky Strike, is based off of a brand of cigarette that is in universe. I'm not sure if it's a real brand of cigarette. I assume it's not, but in the film, the soldiers all smoke Lucky Strike brand cigarettes. And the rule of thumb for the American soldiers is that they always smoke the cigarette so that the logo burns first. They always smoke it with the logo out so that it burns off, because when they throw the cigarette away, they don't want to leave behind a trace of, like, if it was the Americans, because only the Americans are smoking Luckies, they don't want to leave behind a trail, which is, very smart, very well written. But instead of that being, well put or whatever, it's kind of just a background thing until the very end of the movie. Like, at the beginning of the film, they set up that idea, and then it doesn't come back until the very end of the movie. There's no repetition with the Lucky Strike thing, which is fine if it made more sense. The Lucky Strike gimmick in this movie, it doesn't really, it's barely mentioned in the beginning of the movie. It's very, niche, I guess. And then it kind of comes back at the end and is like a big reveal. And it's kind of cool, like it kind of works, but it's not really all that well put, so it kind of loses a little bit of luster there. But, yeah, overall, I thought this was a decent World War II flick. It's not, like, incredible. It's not going to change the game for World War II movies, but considering that it's got a relatively lower budget and it's from a studio that I haven't seen many movies from, it's relatively entertaining. It's definitely my least favorite secret screening I've ever seen, but that's not like a super like low bar or anything like that. Like it's not like it's like terrible. I would say this is like a 5 out of 10 movie. It's watchable if you want to watch a war movie that's not Pressure. If you enjoyed Pressure, maybe you'll have fun with this one. It's a little bit more action oriented. There's a few good things about it. It's probably not worth your time, but I enjoyed it. Gave it a 5 out of 10. So that's all I have to say about Lucky Strike. This is a relatively solid movie. So if you want to go check it out, go check it out. It's in theaters on June 26th. And that's all from me. I will see you on the next one, and peace out.